You'll have to leave the name of Baggins behind you, for that name is not safe outside the Shire. Gandalf advises Frodo in Peter Jackson's film adaptation of the Fellowship of the Ring. One thing is certain, you cannot use your family name. Baggins is known to the enemy now. It would be like raising a beacon to announce your presence. The equivalent passage in Ian Chesterfield's novelization, itself adapted from Jackson's film. These two versions of the same sequence provide us with a compelling lens through which to compare the differences between the medium of film and prose. The film line is direct and somber, with an economy of language that suits the fast-paced and visual nature of film. In contrast, the novel's tone is more explanatory. Gandalf is not simply giving a command, but offering Frodo and the reader a rationale. This difference speaks to the nature of each medium. Film must move quickly and show more than tell. Prose, on the other hand, thrives on interiority and the layering of thought. Film compresses, prose expands. Film leads on visual immediacy, prose builds on metaphor and explanation. To further explore these differences, this video will look at one part of the story in both the film and the novelization of the Fellowship of the Ring. First, we'll watch a short clip from the film. Then, we'll read the matching chapter from the novelization. Since films move quickly and can show a lot in just a few minutes, while novels often take pages to describe the same events, we'll break the novelization chapters into short passages. After each passage, we'll stop to talk about what works well in the novel, what might be stronger in the film, and how each version tells the story in its own way. We'll go back and forth like this until we've worked through the whole chapter. At the end, we'll wrap everything up by thinking about what each medium does best, where they might struggle, and how comparing them helps us understand the story in a new way. By the time we're finished, we'll have a much clearer idea of how storytelling changes when it moves from screen to page, and why that matters. Let's begin.
This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron in the fires of Mount Doom, taken by Isildur from the hand of Sauron himself.
Bilbo found it in Gollum's cave.
Yes, for 60 years the ring lay quiet in Bilbo's keeping, prolonging his life, delaying old age, but no longer Frodo. Evil is stirring in Mordor. The ring has awoken. It's heard its master's call.
But he was destroyed. Sauron was destroyed.
No, Frodo. The spirit of Sauron endured. His life force is bound to the ring, and the ring survived. Sauron has returned. His orcs have multiplied. His fortress of Barad-dûr is rebuilt in the land of Mordor. Sauron needs only this ring to cover all the lands in a second darkness. He is seeking it. All his thought is bent on it. For the ring yearns above all else to return to the hand of its master. They are one. The ring and the Dark Lord. Frodo, he must never find it.
All right, we put it away. We keep it hidden. We never speak of it again. No one knows it's here, do they? Do they, Gandalf?
There is one other who knew that Bilbo had the ring. I looked everywhere for the creature Gollum, but the enemy found him first. I don't know how long they tortured him, but amidst the endless screams and inane babble, they discerned 2 words.
Shire! Back
Baggins! Shire. Baggins. That would lead them here. Who goes there? Take it, Gandalf. Take it. No, Frodo. You must take it. You cannot offer me this ring. I'm giving it to you. Don't tempt me, Frodo. I dare not take it. Not even to keep it safe. Understand, Frodo. I would use this ring from a desire to do good. But through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine. But it cannot stay in the Shire. No. No, it can't. What must I do? You must leave, and leave quickly. Where? Where do I go? Get out of the Shire. Make for the village of Bree. Bree? What about you? I'll be waiting for you at the Inn of the Prancing Pony. And the ring will be safe there? I don't know, Frodo. I don't have any answers. I must see the head of my order. He is both wise and powerful. Trust me, Frodo. He'll know what to do. You'll have to leave the name of Baggins behind you, for that name is not safe outside the Shire. Travel only by day, and stay off the road. I can cut across country easy enough. My dear Frodo, hobbits really are amazing creatures. You can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years, they can still surprise you. Get down. Oh! Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee! Have you been eavesdropping? I haven't dropped no eaves, sir, honest. I was just cutting the grass under the window there, if you follow me. A little late for trimming the verge, don't you think? I heard raised voices. What did you hear? Speak! Nothing important. That is, I heard a good deal about a ring, and a Doric lord, and something about the end of the world, but please, Mr. Gandalf, sir, don't hurt me. Don't turn me into anything unnatural. No? Perhaps not. I've thought of a better use for you. Come along, Samwise. Keep up. Be careful, both of you. The enemy has many spies in his service. Birds, beasts. Is it safe? Never put it on, for the agents of the Dark Lord will be drawn to its power. Always remember, Frodo, the ring is trying to get back to its master. It wants to be found.
Next, we'll read the first passage from the chapter of the novelization, and then compare and analyze the differences. Frodo followed Gandalf to the kitchen table, where he placed the ring at the center of the worn wooden surface. It sat there innocuously, a simple circle of gold. "This is no ordinary trinket," Gandalf said, sinking heavily into a chair. "This is the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron himself in the fires of Mount Doom. The same ring that was cut from Sauron's hand by Isildur at the end of the last alliance." Frodo stared at the ring with new understanding and growing dread. "So this is what Uncle Bilbo discovered in the goblin tunnels," he murmured, "in the creature Gollum's cave."
"Indeed," Gandalf confirmed. "For 6 decades it lay dormant in Bilbo's possession, extending his years, preserving his youth while time moved on around him. But that dormancy has ended, Frodo. Evil stirs once more in the east. The ring has awakened because it has heard its master's call."
As if in response to Gandalf's words, a faint whisper seemed to emanate from the ring, a sound like distant voices speaking in a harsh, guttural language that made Frodo's skin crawl. Their eyes met across the table, and Frodo knew the wizard had heard it too. "But that's impossible," Frodo protested, struggling to reconcile what he was hearing with the history he had been taught. "Sauron was vanquished. His power was destroyed ages ago." Gandalf leaned forward, his face grave in the dim light.
Sauron's physical form was destroyed, yes, but his essence, his spirit endured. His very being is bound to this ring, Frodo, and as long as it exists, so too does Sauron.
The wizard's voice grew more urgent as he continued.
He has returned. His fortress of Barad-dûr rises once more in Mordor. His forces grow stronger by the day, orcs multiplying in the darkness, preparing for war. The Dark Lord lacks only this.
He gestured toward the ring.
To complete his dominion over Middle-earth. His thoughts are consumed with finding it, reclaiming it, for the ring desires to return to its creator. They are one entity, separated only by time and circumstance.
Gandalf fixed Frodo with an intense stare.
He must never regain possession of it. The consequences would be unimaginable.
Frodo felt as though the floor were tilting beneath him. His gaze darted to the ring, then back to Gandalf. With sudden determination, he snatched up the ring and hurried from the kitchen. "Then we hide it," he declared, entering the living room with purposeful strides. "We conceal it somewhere no one would think to look, and we never speak of it again." He stopped suddenly, a new thought striking him. "No one else knows it's here, surely? No one could possibly know." When Gandalf didn't immediately respond, Frodo turned to face him. The wizard's silence was answer enough. "Gandalf?" Frodo pressed, dread building in his chest. "Does anyone else know?" Gandalf sighed heavily, his shoulders slumping.
"There was one other who knew of Bilbo's possession of the ring," he admitted reluctantly. "I searched everywhere for the creature Gollum, hoping to find him before our enemies did. But I was too late."
The wizard's eyes grew distant, as if seeing horrors beyond the walls of Bag End.
"The forces of Mordor captured him. I cannot imagine the torments they inflicted. But amidst his screams and ramblings, they extracted 2 words of critical importance."
Gandalf's voice dropped to barely above a whisper.
"Shire. Baggins."
The colour drained from Frodo's face as the implications crashed over him. "Then they know," he breathed. "They know the ring is here in the Shire, with someone named Baggins." Before Gandalf could respond, Frodo thrust the ring toward him. "You must take it," he insisted, desperation edging his voice. "Take it far from here." Gandalf recoiled, as if Frodo had offered him a venomous serpent.
"No, Frodo."
"Please," Frodo begged. "I'm giving it freely. You know best how to protect it."
"Don't tempt me,"
Gandalf thundered, then immediately lowered his voice, glancing nervously at the windows.
"You cannot understand what you ask. I dare not carry it, not even to safeguard it."
His expression softened as he looked at Frodo's confused face.
"You must understand. I would begin with the noblest intentions, using the ring's power only to achieve good. But through me, it would manifest a terrible might. The temptation would be too great, the corruption too swift. I would become something far worse than Sauron himself."
Frodo closed his fingers around the ring, feeling its unnatural weight. "But it cannot remain in the Shire," he said quietly. "Not if what you say is true. The danger is too great for everyone here." Gandalf nodded solemnly.
"On that we are in agreement."
"What must I do?" Frodo asked, his voice small but resolute in the dimly lit room. The question hung between them, a moment of decision that would alter the course of not just Frodo's life, but the fate of all Middle-earth. This opening passage from this chapter of the novelization is one of the strongest examples of how prose can balance mythic storytelling with intimate emotional stakes. something that the film was forced to approach very differently. The written word's ability to present grand lore side by side with a character's personal reaction gives this scene immense depth. Gandalf's exposition about the ring and Sauron's lingering spirit is dense, but in prose it reads as natural and urgent because it is grounded in a shared moment between two characters, and because it is filtered through Frodo's fear and dawning responsibility. Unlike the film, which relied on visual spectacle to convey power and dread, this scene in prose builds its gravity through language, pacing, and character reaction. The ring is described not as a dramatic relic glowing ominously on cue, but as something deceptively small, plain, and inert, until its malevolent presence is felt. The subtle whisper, quote, like distant voices speaking in a harsh, guttural language, end quote, makes the supernatural intrusion feel intimate and insidious. This is a horror that crawls, not explodes. And yet, the scene reveals some of prose's inherent challenges. Much of it is dialogue-driven exposition, a strength in that it allows nuance, but a weakness in that it risks slowing momentum. The reader must be willing to sit with long explanations and philosophical warnings, rather than be carried forward by action. There's also the matter of rhythm, the scene's emotional turns, panic, pleading, refusal, solemn agreement are intense, and prose must maintain balance so that the drama feels earned rather than melodramatic. This passage largely succeeds, but it's a narrow line to walk. The burden rests on tone, diction, and internal consistency. For instance, Gandalf's sudden fear of the windows feels slightly theatrical, but in prose we accept it because we've been primed to feel the growing weight of paranoia and surveillance. Let's continue. Gandalf's response was immediate and grave. "You must leave the Shire at once," he said, rising to his feet with newfound urgency. "Every moment you remain puts everyone in Hobbiton at risk." Frodo moved as if in a dream, pulling his travel pack from a hook by the door and beginning to gather essentials. His hands worked mechanically, folding tunics and stuffing them into the knapsack, while his mind reeled from the enormity of what Gandalf had revealed. "Where am I to go?" he asked, pausing with a loaf of bread half wrapped in cloth. "I've never journeyed beyond the borders of the Shire." Gandalf paced the small kitchen, his tall frame stooping beneath the low ceiling. "Make for the village of Bree," he instructed, eyes distant as he mapped out a mental path. "It lies beyond the old forest, east of the Brandywine." Frodo added a wedge of cheese to his provisions. "And what of you?" he asked, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. The thought of facing this journey alone filled him with dread. "I'll meet you at an establishment called the Prancing Pony," Gandalf assured him. "It's an inn favoured by travellers. You'll be inconspicuous there until I arrive." Uncertainty flickered across Frodo's face as he secured the clasp on his pack. "Will the ring be protected there? Will we be safe?" The wizard's hesitation spoke volumes. "I cannot say with certainty," he admitted, and the rare confession of ignorance from one so wise sent a chill through Frodo. "I must consult with the head of my order,
Saruman the White. His wisdom surpasses even mine, and his powers are considerable. He will know what path we must take."
Gandalf helped Frodo into his travelling coat, adjusting the collar with an almost paternal tenderness.
"One thing is certain. You cannot use your family name. Baggins is known to the enemy now. It would be like raising a beacon to announce your presence."
Frodo nodded, absorbing this new caution as he fastened his cloak. "What other precautions should I take?"
"Travel only in daylight,"
Gandalf instructed, his voice low and serious.
"Avoid the main roads where you might be spotted. The servants of the enemy prefer darkness, and will be less likely to find you by day."
"I know the lands surrounding Hobbiton well enough," Frodo said, his confidence growing slightly as he thought of the rolling hills and meadows he'd explored in happier times. "I can navigate across open country without much difficulty." Gandalf paused in his instructions, studying the small figure before him. Despite the fear evident in Frodo's eyes, there was also a quiet determination that moved the wizard deeply.
"My dear Frodo," he said softly, "hobbits truly are remarkable creatures. One might spend decades studying your kind, learning your customs and habits, and still after a century you find ways to astonish me with your resilience."
The moment of reflection was shattered by a faint rustling outside the window. Gandalf's expression transformed in an instant, his gentle demeanour replaced by vigilant wariness.
"Get down,"
he whispered sharply, motioning Frodo away from the window. Frodo pressed himself against the wall, heart hammering as Gandalf crept towards the source of the noise, staff raised defensively. In one swift motion, the wizard thrust his staff downward, connecting with someone or something hidden in the garden below. A startled yelp of pain confirmed Gandalf's suspicions. With surprising strength, Gandalf reached into the darkness and hauled a figure through the window, depositing him unceremoniously onto the kitchen table. Pots and dishes clattered to the floor as Samwise Gamgee sprawled across the wooden surface, his round face pale with terror.
"Confound you, Samwise Gamgee!"
Gandalf thundered, looming over the trembling hobbit like an avenging spirit.
"Have you been eavesdropping on matters that don't concern you?"
Sam raised his hands defensively, shrinking away from the wizard's imposing figure. "I haven't been dropping no eaves, sir, honest," he protested, words tumbling out in panicked succession. "I was just tending to the garden beneath the window, as per my obligations." Gandalf's bushy eyebrows knitted together skeptically.
"A curious time for gardening, wouldn't you agree? Well past sunset by my reckoning."
I heard raised voices," Sam admitted reluctantly, eyes darting between Gandalf and Frodo. "Sounded troubled, they did. I was concerned for Mr. Frodo's welfare."
"And what exactly did these concerned ears of yours overhear?"
Gandalf demanded, leaning closer until his face was inches from Sam's.
"Speak plainly now."
Sam's breathing quickened, his fingers gripping the edge of the table. "Nothing of consequence, sir. Just fragments, bits and pieces about a ring, and some Dark Lord, and something rather unsettling about the end of the world." His voice rose in pitch as Gandalf's expression darkened. "But please, Mr. Gandalf, sir, I meant no harm. Don't turn me into anything unnatural." The tension in the room broke as Frodo failed to suppress a smile at his gardener's imagination. Even Gandalf's stern countenance softened slightly.
"Transform you?"
the wizard mused, stroking his beard thoughtfully.
"No, I think not."
A calculating look entered his eyes.
"In fact, I believe I've thought of a far more suitable use for you, Samwise Gamgee."
This passage continues the novelization's deft handling of tone and character, balancing urgency, tenderness, and a touch of humor, all things the prose medium can explore with patience and subtlety. We're witnessing the transition from private decision to the beginnings of a quest. And the writing's strength lies in its ability to shift gears without losing emotional continuity. It allows the readers to absorb not only what's happening, but what it feels like to experience this moment through Frodo, Gandalf, and ultimately Sam. Another of prose's clear strengths in this passage is its control over pacing and internal reaction. Frodo's movements are mechanical at first. He packs food and clothes almost absent-mindedly, while his mind races. These small grounded details convey how overwhelmed he is far more effectively than what we saw in the film. The weight of leaving home, the shock of responsibility, the instinct to do something, even if the plan is unclear. These are internal realities that prose alone can capture directly. One of the challenges of prose, however, is avoiding excessive dialogue or over-narration, especially in a scene like this that features a lot of talking and exposition. Yet this passage mostly succeeds because it blends action and dialogue with character revelation. Gandalf's interrogative authority, Sam's terrified loyalty, Frodo's mounting resolve. They all develop through what they say and how they react to each other. There's a rhythm to the exchange that keeps the reader engaged. Let's continue. Dawn had barely begun to lighten the eastern sky when 3 figures emerged from Bag End, moving with swift purpose through the sleeping village. A thick blanket of mist shrouded Hobbiton, providing a natural cover for their departure. Frodo and Sam, each carrying a laden pack, struggled to keep pace with Gandalf's long strides as he led his horse through the mist-wreathed landscape. "Quickly now," the wizard urged as they crossed a freshly ploughed field, leaving Hobbiton behind them. "We must reach the cover of Bindball Wood before full daylight." Sam stumbled over an exposed root, adjusting the unfamiliar weight of his hastily packed knapsack. His expression was a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He had never ventured far from home, and now he was leaving without so much as a farewell to his old gaffer. They travelled in silence until they reached the shadowed eaves of the woods. There, beneath the protective canopy of ancient trees, Gandalf slowed his pace and motioned for Frodo to approach. "The road ahead is long and fraught with danger," he said quietly, glancing around as if suspecting hidden observers. "The Dark Lord has many servants watching for signs of the ring. Creatures that fly through the air, beasts that track my scent, spies in many guises." Frodo nodded solemnly, the reality of their situation settling upon him like a physical weight. Gandalf lowered his voice further, his gaze intense. "Is it still secure?" Frodo patted the breast pocket of his waistcoat and nodded. "Listen carefully," Gandalf continued, his hand gripping Frodo's shoulder. "Under no circumstances must you wear it, not even in a moment of great need, for the ring calls to its master, and putting it on would be like lighting a beacon fire on a hilltop, visible to our enemies for leagues around." He fixed Frodo with a penetrating stare. "Remember always, the ring desires to be found. It will work against you, Frodo. It will seek any opportunity to reveal itself, to return to Sauron's hand. Trust no one." With these ominous words, Gandalf mounted his horse in one fluid motion. The animal snorted and pawed at the ground, sensing its rider's urgency. Without further farewell, he spurred his horse forward. The sound of hoofbeats faded quickly, leaving Frodo and Sam standing alone among the trees. They turned to each other, the weight of their mission reflected in their eyes. No words were needed. Each understood the peril that lay before them, and the trust Gandalf had placed in their small hands. With a silent nod of shared resolve, they adjusted their packs and set out eastward, two tiny figures in a vast and increasingly dangerous world. This final passage from the novelization highlights many of the inherent strengths of the written medium, especially in its ability to render subtle emotion, internal states, and atmospheric nuance in a way the same scene in the film was unable to do. The mist described shrouding Hobbiton, for example, isn't just a visual element. It becomes a metaphor for uncertainty and concealment. We aren't simply shown it, we feel it, wrapping around the characters as they slip away, evoking a tone of quiet foreboding. Unlike the film, where the imagery was visual and momentary, here the written word allows the mist to linger in our minds, intertwined with the character's departure. Similarly, the physical and emotional state of Sam are conveyed not just through action or expression, but through narrative reflection. In the film, we could only guess at what he feels, but in prose, we are told exactly what is stirring inside him, making his experience more intimate and fully realized. Where prose truly excels here, however, is in the final image. Frodo and Sam standing alone, the silence between them speaking volumes. Their shared resolve is internal and quiet, subtleties that would have been impossible to communicate in the film without either dialogue or overt gestures. The sentence, "two tiny figures in a vast and increasingly dangerous world," reinforces their vulnerability in a way that transcends the equivalent visual shot. It invites the reader to step into their shoes, to feel the scale of the task ahead, and the courage required to face it. That said, this passage does lack some of the immediate sensory immersion that the film was able to deliver. Unlike film, prose relies on the reader's imagination to fill in many gaps, and though it often succeeds, especially with evocative language, it can occasionally feel muted compared to the visceral impact of the moving image. Moreover, pacing in prose demands patience. The internal monologue, the gradual layering of mood and thought, asks more of the reader's attention than the film asked of its audience. For those used to the economy of visual storytelling, this detailed build-up can feel slow, even ponderous. The film compressed all this into under a minute, while prose indulges in the emotional weight of every word. Ultimately, this chapter illustrates the unique power of prose to explore the inward landscapes of its characters, to deepen suspense through thought as well as action, and to craft a tone that resonates long after the final sentence. While the film excelled in immediacy and spectacle, the novelization offers introspection, nuance, and an emotional closeness that is arguably more enduring. Thank you for watching this comparative analysis. Next time, we'll be comparing the scene in the film where Gandalf meets Saruman the White with the corresponding chapter in the novelization and analyzing the differences. Take care, and if you're listening to this, please send help.